I don't know how people stay glamorous all the time on the screen. Keep looking, even trying to keep your hair halfway neat is a challenge. Okay, is there anybody out there? Hope the bell goes off this morning. I shall start shuffling. Trying to do the shuffle and show you the shuffle at the same time is not the easiest feat. So, oh dear. I'll wait for a few people to come on. I hope you're all doing well. I just went out for a drive. I just escaped the house. It's not like The Walking Dead anymore. There's people everywhere. I'm like, hey, how you going, gorgeous? Hey, Haley, how you going, Gigi? I had to put something on Facebook this morning because I think people think because we're getting a little bit of a loosening up of the rules. Hey, Moira, how you going? That nobody thinks the COVID's around anymore. It's crazy. It really is. So I got a bit cheesed off again with work. The project I'm doing at the moment is a little stressful. So I thought, I did a lot of work this morning. And then I thought, I'm just going to go for a drive, get out of the house. So I rang my daughter. How are you, Joanne? I said, I'm going to pop over for a quick cup of tea just to have a little bit of time out and escape. I'm starting to get a little bit Jack Nicholson. So I'm sneaking out. Oh, we have 111. So I thought I'll sneak out and just have a bit of a break. And while I was there, my daughter's partner was home today, so he kindly went out and bought us coffee, grabbed me some milk while he was out there, got to see the baby. Oh, thank you. And that was really sweet. Thank you so much. And anyway, I thought it'll be nice and quiet. I'll just stop off and before my son-in-law said he'd grab me some milk while he was out. I thought, I'll nick into the shops. It's usually really quiet, Kirraville, and I can sort of grab a carton of milk. There was people everywhere. Honestly, I think people don't think that there's anything happening at the moment. The guys on the building site were in huddles. People were all having coffee, sitting around the coffee shops. And I'm like, do you realize they're still talking about social distancing? The only difference is now you can do it, you've got a little bit of freedom, but the bug is still out there. Seriously, people, I'm really blown out by it. Anyway, that's enough for my gripe for the day. I was going to pull cards and I've got 2 again. That's really interesting, isn't it? I've been getting 2 a bit, and look, both water, shark and dolphin. And I think I said to you, I had dreams about sharks the other night, and they're not nice dreams, but all very interesting. Okay, let's look up shark and dolphin, both water animals, which I think is quite interesting. There's the dolphin and there's the shark. Beautiful. Okay, the shark. It's the bitey thing that swims. This is about directness, exposure, revealing true nature. So this is something else. See, I've been sort of getting back to the runes again, and I drew a rune this morning. How are you, Scott? I drew a rune this morning and it didn't have markings on it. And I thought, I can't remember there being a blank rune in the set. Well, apparently the blank rune talks about untapped potential. And so far, the runes have resonated with me every day. I pull one so I can learn them as I'm going. And it's about untapped potential. And then I read the shark and it's about revealing true nature. So I think that we're all finding things out about ourselves that we may not have known before. It's really interesting. This is about desire too. Okay. The shark is only dangerous when we don't acknowledge it. This card indicates that something big needs to be exposed, and we keep being told by spirit that we've all got this untapped potential, which is quite interesting. It's lurking in the depths and creating tension. Shark energy takes over us when we're hesitant to be honest, to be totally ourselves, or to say what we really want. It may be tempting to continue pretending nothing is wrong, but when shark energy is at play, we feel its presence encircling us. And I really feel this is what's happening at the moment. People are being asked to really be true to themselves. So this is quite interesting. I'm very well, thank you, Scott. And hello, Stacey. How are you going? Okay, so that's the shark. And it's about imbalance. It's about intriguing, captivating, and mysterious. Nice. Okay, the dolphin. This is about innate intelligence. See, it never misses a beat, does it? And this is about healer, light, and blessings. I think a lot of us are hiding away some sort of healing thing that we don't. Haley's doing the da da, that one. Okay, the dolphin. Okie dokie. It was such a good movie, wasn't it, Jaws, when it came out? Such a freaky movie. Hey, Susan, how you going? Oh, I had a really very challenging morning, and I decided to go out for coffee with my daughter, which was really. Did you hear that? Did you hear my iPad? These web searching for what does a challenging morning mean. I don't know what's going on with that iPad. Okay, dolphin. Innately intelligent, healer, light, blessings. The gifts of the dolphin are beyond what our human minds can grasp. Dolphin personalities are often drawn to the healing arts as they are sensitive to the subtle and enjoy working on the level of spirit. It's easy for dolphin types to underestimate the impact they make in the world. These creatures play an important role in the wheel of karma, that coming into contact with the dolphin type will change the entire course of your day and thus your life. This card can also indicate a profound blessing is on the way. Now I know how they fit. Active healer, strong spiritual practice. Okay, so what I want to say to you is whatever this is, whatever this little light is you've been hiding away from the world, whatever this little part is within you that you're not showing is about to be discovered. So for many people, especially you guys on here, and I know I talk about this all the time, many of us have been raised to bury away parts of ourselves that people around us might have been ashamed of, jealous of, angry about, whatever. And we hid away parts of ourselves that we didn't feel comfortable showing to the world. I always say to people, if you're hiding away a certain thing, it's more than likely masking other things about you that are more beautiful than you can imagine. So say, for example, just loosely, you had an ability to heal, and people told you, don't be ridiculous. What are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. And you become then afraid to sort of let it out into the light. And then if you hide that away, then there's a good chance it dumps down on other things about you that you have that are equally as beautiful. But unless you sort of learn how to accept the first thing, all the other things are sitting behind it. So this is why we're so strongly at the moment being asked by Spirit to work on the things that we're hiding away and to become ourselves, because underneath all this hidden stuff lies another layer of us that we have yet to find. And I think for a lot of people that is a healing power that perhaps we don't realize we even have. So when I say healing power, you could be an incredibly good psychic. You could be able to do something like arts and crafts, singing, dancing, something that you've hidden away from the world because you felt somebody had said something to you to make you not feel comfortable with it. So you hid it inside yourself and you don't acknowledge it. And I hear people saying it all the time, let's go out dancing. Oh, I can't dance. Well, what is it you can't do? What is dancing for you? Because at the end of the day, there is no, unless you're going to go out and become a high class ballroom dancer, there is no such thing as not being able to dance. Because if you can get on and move to the music and you can shuffle around on the floor, that's dancing. But maybe someone told you a long time ago that you couldn't dance, and then you dump the dancing and everything underneath goes. Moira, shark eats dolphin if you let him. Well, that's right. So I guess when you think about it, that's a good way to think about it. Maybe if our personalities are, or if we're bullied enough by others, it's possible we could hide away those beautiful things about ourselves that we are worried about sharing with the world. I mean, some of you have talked about narcissism in your family as well as partners. I mean, how many times has a partner or a family member told you, why would you bother doing that? You're not any good at that. And then I think, well, if you've hidden away one aspect of yourself, the chances are pretty good. Hey, Maria, how you going? The chances are pretty good you've hidden away quite a lot of yourself from the world. And especially if you're a people pleaser and you don't say no to people, which is a natural thing to do, we become very accustomed to what we're taught. So if you're constantly taught that you're not good at something, how are you ever going to believe you are? And what is someone else's belief really, other than just an opinion? And how many times do we listen to people's opinions? And you know what? Many, many times that's jealousy and envy when someone says, you can't dance. Why? Are you, Rudolf Nureyev? Who are you to tell me I can't dance? And it's sort of like, I think then if you're going to listen to how people want to mold you, as an adult, I guess we might think about that a little more. But as a child, as a small person, those are the things we take on board that make us very worried about how we're doing things. Good example, my daughter, when she was growing up, she was a challenge for me. And she would come out and be ready to go somewhere and she would want to get herself dressed. Oh my goodness, that was freaky. So she'd come out dressed. And I'm telling you, she was out there when she dressed herself. Nothing matched. Everything just didn't go together. And in those days, I was a bit anal about, making sure you match this with this and making sure this goes together. And I'd look at her and I think, oh no, how about, honey, you go and just change your top and put something else on? No, Mum, I like this. Okay. Do you think it would look better with that? No, I like it the way I am. And sometimes I would make her go and get changed because she would look absolutely just now. She would look really unique. I don't even know how to explain it. But anyway, when she got older, I said something to her about it one day. And I said to her something about it. And she said, I will never do that to my daughter. You stymied my uniqueness and what I was trying to say and do. And I was like, yeah, I really understand that. I do get it now, but I didn't get it when you were little. Nothing went the way it should. And anyway, I hear it saying to her daughter now, you can't go out dressed like that. And I think it's just something parents do. We inadvertently do it. We don't mean to, but maybe we do sort of shut down people's creativity by saying that just looks really crazy, because then I see some people walking around and they, put the most incredible outfits on. And I'm so envious that they get to match everything and look so great, even when they're matching really sort of unusual things. And I think I could have been a lot better at doing that when I was a parent, but obviously I thought I was doing it the best thing I could. So, no, my daughter's a Taurian. So I have 2 Taurian children and a Scorpio. But what I'm going to say, we're nearly all earth signs. We have very few. My daughter has 4 children. One of them's Aquarian. The other 3 are earth signs. 2 Virgos and Capricorn. And then my daughter's an earth sign, and the other daughter's an earth sign, and I have a son who's a Scorpio. So they are very stubborn. Sorry, Taurus. But my 2 Taurians were very stubborn. And it's confidence how you wear it. Yep, I agree. I look back now and I think, wow, I just didn't realize. I was just like, your kids need to be neat and tidy. I had all that pride thing going on. Yeah, see, there you go. They dressed themselves this morning. And you know what? You just have to just go with that. But I think I was always really, because being a bit of a people pleaser, I was always scared what other people might think. Now I couldn't give 2 hoots, but I was a little bit worried about what people would think, and how I dressed the children. But now I look at them and I think, who cares? Who really cares how your children dress? Full stop. So, but it was just an example. And now when you think about it, okay, so it's only about the dress at that point in time. But then what else have I done by doing that? Have I then sort of stymied or, buried other creative talents that she has underneath that? Because in creating a fear or an embarrassment around one thing, does that mean I could have possibly stopped her from developing other talents and skills? And what if that dress, the way she dressed, would have meant if I'd have embraced it, she might have become a fashion designer? And I feel that this is what happens, you see. There, see, why did you let me dress like that? You can't win. You're going to do it, but it just makes you realize that you only have to say a certain amount to your children, thinking you're doing it in good faith, but actually you don't really know that you are not doing long-term damage by doing that. So it's quite interesting. So I feel like with those two cards, the shark and the dolphin, this is about being able to be yourself, being true to who you are, and being able to then bring forth the gifts that you were born with that you may have covered up along the way. So I often, obviously, as a reader, have people coming to me and saying to me, what is my life purpose? What was I meant to do? And I've had a few people that I've spoken to who say loved being a photographer, but they've never made it as a photographer, so they've ended up doing something completely different. And I say to them, what do you love to do? What is your calling? What are you being called to do? And they say, well, I love being a photographer. I'm like, well, if that's your calling and that's what's calling to you, then that is where you should be. And you just have to learn to build like I'm doing with this. This is what I love to do, this reading for people, guiding people. I do life coaching. I do a lot of other things, but this is my joy. But because I'd always been so terrified of not having stability and security, and as I've said to you many times, I've spent quite a lot of years on my own, I needed to have that permanent income. But now I'm thinking maybe the stability I thought was in a permanent income may not really be that stable. I mean, look at the world now. So it sort of challenged my ideas around what is stability. I agree with you, Moira. I'm a strong believer in the Akashic records. I think we all pick our lives before we come here. As much as, it takes many years to be able to work around the sort of things we have. And I have people say to me sometimes, if I'd have had the choice, why would I pick my parents? I'm like, I have no idea. I can't say why you would have done that, but it may have been in a previous life that you had everything cushy and you wanted to learn how to fight for things, how to work hard, how to, bring in the things you want. Maybe you've had it easy in a past life. Maybe you didn't have any parents. Maybe you were an orphan in a past life and you wanted to have parents in this life who guided you. Maybe you just picked those parents thinking they would be good guides. I don't know, but I do think that everything we do has some sort of underlying lesson for us. And at the end of the day, I look back over my life and I think, yeah, things have been tough at times, but I wouldn't change anything at all. At all. I really wouldn't, because I think that even the challenging times, even the really tough times teach you something. I think everyone would agree to that. And, it's not nice being in sort of, situations that you really wouldn't have chosen for yourself. But at the end of the day, how much did you learn from that situation that's really helped you move forward? So now I'm learning to be grateful for everything in my life, no matter which way it's come around. And I agree. I think that we choose who we want to come into the world with. I got to say, my choices weren't great. My choices along the way have been pretty questionable. I don't think I've always made the best choices for the person I think I am, but at the end of the day, I've just become a better person for it. So unfortunately, some of the things that I am extremely generous for and extremely loving and kind for has led me into trouble with people, but it's taught me that I need to put good boundaries and I need to be more selective about what I do give to others, and that's fine. And I meet people like you guys and all the stuff that you talk about, and I think if I could choose the people that I could be around all the time, I would choose people just like you. But I wouldn't learn some of the hard lessons I've learned by being treated poorly or disrespectfully, or, things I've battled for. So none of you would turn around and change anything if you really had the choice. You might think you would, but when you think about it really deeply, you probably wouldn't question any of those things at all. Anyway, on to some better things. So I bought some more books up because you guys were all talking about the books yesterday, because somebody mentioned that one. The human magnet syndrome, why we love people who hurt us. This is for emotional manipulators, codependence, and dysfunctional relationships. So if you're looking for a book that's good, Ross Rosenberg wrote that. So that's a really good one if you want to read that one. It's a shame you don't all live closer, because I would loan them to you, and they cost too much to mail to people. This is really good. This is about attachment. And it's about adult attachment. So we've talked a little bit about that. What's your partner's style? What's sort of your attachment style? Understanding, dependency, and how to work with relationships and behaviors. Very, very good book. And that one was written by Amir Levine, MD, and Rachel Heller, MA. So that's a really good one if you're looking for a good book to read. And the other one I found really, really good about relationships, which was recommended to me by, I think, a counsellor along the way somewhere. And it's called He's Scared, She's Scared. And it's understanding the hidden fears that sabotage your relationships. I found this one really good. Stephen Carter and Julia Sokol. And they also wrote a book, Men Who Can't Love. So if you've been dealing with this one's really good, because it talks about things like, people who can't keep it in their pants, basically, and why people sabotage relationships. And it's sort of, I love you, but not being able to commit, those sort of things. Runners and chasers, commitment fears. And whose fear is it anyway? So I want to read a little bit on the back, because I think it's really interesting. It says, every woman I meet is still in love with her ex-boyfriend. I can't explain it. I just seem to attract married men. I had someone say that to me not long ago. Every time we get close, one of us pulls away. So it's about commitment phobia. So very, very interesting. People self-sabotaging relationships. Very, very good one to read. Hey, Nicole, how are you going? Yeah, I actually agree with you to some level, Gigi. I think that we do we do meet people at a perfect time for each other if we're aligned. I think that the couples I've seen in my lifetime that have really beautiful relationships, and I know a few of them who've been together forever, 30 odd years. Those people have partners who want to work with them. They don't give up. But a lot of people, once they get into a relationship, sort of feel so comfortable they don't want to work on it anymore. And that's always going to be an issue. At my age, I've often meet men who've come out of very long-term relationships who just want to walk into the next relationship and pick up where they left off. So they don't understand the concept of, all the preliminaries, the dating, the having fun, all that sort of thing. Hey, Crystal, how are you going? I'm very well, thanks, Nicole. We'll catch up soon, my angel. I think that people have to grow together. So I think that they do meet each other at the perfect time, and their vibrations probably are very, very close when they meet. But I always seem to find in most relationships, one person is really, really wanting to grow, expand, do things in life, and the other person just wants to, sit back, relax, and just wants to enjoy life standing still. That is not a really good way to be. And the problem, as I see it with a lot of relationships, is a lot of people, when they come into a relationship, the partner does the work and is the breadwinner, and very often it's the woman who's raising the family. So the woman goes in, raises the family, puts her own career on hold, and she goes out, raises her family and everything. And most of the time women get to about the mid-30s and then realize that they've got no career, they've got no nothing in their life that they really can put their teeth into. The kids are all starting to grow up a little bit more independent, and all of a sudden they realize that they want to do something. And it seems to be about 36 for most people. And they want to go out and get things and travel because they've been having kids and they've been tied to jobs just because they had an income, and and they want to get get ahead in their lives. But by that time, a man has been working the whole time. His life has changed a certain amount because he's seen, and this is not necessarily man-woman, it can be woman-woman or man-man or whatever. But the person who hasn't been raising the children has been out working. They want to sit back and just enjoy life. But the person who's raised the children is then ready to do new things, to travel and do all the things they couldn't do over that time. So you've got one person bursting out of their skin, ready to take on the world and change everything and have a career and get a degree and and have something worthwhile and give back to the community, and the other person sitting there looking for the next show on Netflix. And then you realize that you've just grown apart in that time. So both of you have been heading down slightly different paths. And of course, that becomes a recipe for disaster then. But I always say to people, human beings, there's nothing in the book of life that says we have to spend all of our lives with one person. That's a very religious concept. It's quite biblical. But we don't really know that we're supposed to be with one person forever. Maybe we're supposed to experience different people, different situations, different careers, different lives. But we don't really know because there's no textbook that tells us how to do that, other than if you're a Christian person and you've been raised with the Bible and the Bible talks about a certain way of being and you've lived your life in line with that. Hey, Sarah, how you going? Oh, you're just gorgeous, aren't you? One of the people I read for here, I want to share your story. Is it okay if I share your story? And I told her she was going to meet someone. She came out of a very somewhat abusive relationship. And I said, you're going to meet someone. And she said to me, how am I ever going to meet someone? I never leave home. I said, well, I'm sorry, there's someone here. And she said, no, I never even go out anywhere. I'm never going to meet anyone. I was like, okay, then. All right, let's just put it to bed. That's okay. Hey, Linda, how you going? Welcome on board. Anyway, she, a couple of weeks ago, got in touch with me and said some sort of circumstances brought around somebody to her house, and she's in love. He's turned out to be really lovely. So I hope it works out for you. I'm so happy you met someone, and and of course she's floored now that she's met someone when she didn't leave the house. So it's quite interesting. Yeah, exactly, Moira. I'll get on. I totally agree with you. We can outgrow friends, we can outgrow family members, we can outgrow our jobs. And we outgrow, even with our children, we can love our children to bits, but we don't always like them when they grow older. It doesn't necessarily mean you don't love them, but you just might not get on with them. And there's nothing in the rule book. So you've got to remember the rule book. We don't have one. Nothing in the rule book says we have to be a certain way or we have to do a certain thing. And that means that, you're sometimes not going to like people. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you don't wish them well. It doesn't mean you don't forgive them for what they've done. But at the end of the day, you may not always love someone. You need to break something in your house for a lady to come around. Well, only if she's the plumber, Scott. So make sure when you ring, ask if you're breaking a pipe or a window, just ask them to send a woman, not a man. I know, Maria, you've said to me a few times, how lovely it is, to have a good relationship. But you know what? Lots of us don't get it right the first time around. And that's okay. There's nothing that says other than religion that if you don't get it right the first time, you can't marry again or you can't divorce. But really, that's all. We can sit and talk about the history of marriage and divorce if you like, because Henry VIII invented divorce. That didn't even come from the Bible. He married his first wife and he didn't like her very much and wanted to get married again. So he invented divorce, and he divorced his first wife to behead his second wife. And then he divorced another one a little bit later. So he made that up completely. And as far as I'm aware, there is no actual commitment, marriage commitment in the Bible. I think people just chose people to be their partners. A bit like jumping the broomstick. The African American people, they jumped a broomstick to get married. So, if you don't get it right the first time, I don't think you should be scorned upon for getting married again. And if you've had 2 or 3 goes at it and you still don't get it, exactly right, it's nobody's fault. It may just be that you've, grown out of a person, or you've, grown to dislike a person, or you could have married a person who is a narcissist who turned out to be completely different to the person you met. Whose fault is that? Move on, find someone else, find your happiness. Nobody's going to judge you for that. Lesson learned, always listen to your psychic when they tell you you're going to meet someone. Well, most times, sometimes we don't quite get it right either. Sometimes, you get to meet people and things don't work out. But, as a psychic, we can't always see the lessons you have to learn. So, I know that I've sort of said to people, you're going to meet someone, and they've met someone and they've not turned out to be the best relationships. But, we can't tell that spirit isn't putting something in your path because you have a lesson to learn from it. So, it's a bit of a tough one, that one. Okay, so Nicole, if somebody doesn't want anything to do with you and your children and doesn't love your children, it's very likely you've met someone who has very manipulative or narcissistic tendencies. If that's the case, you probably need to read up a little bit on it, because a lot of the time this is pretty heavy stuff again, and I don't want to trigger everybody again. I triggered some people talking about this stuff yesterday. Sometimes when somebody wants to manipulate you into having a relationship, they will have children with you because that's what you want. And then when the relationship goes, you split up later on, very often the children are used as pawns for that reason. Very, very sad, very damaging, especially for you. Your children, I think, can learn to get by, but for you, that's really tough. And it could be that your ex is using your children as pawns against you, but it's not very nice, is it? I know, Cherie, and it's really sad, isn't it, that we all relate to each other with this. I know there's a couple of people on here that are watching, though, that have beautiful, happy relationships and have partners who want to work at them too. So hey, Jess, how you going? We've got a mix of people doing here. Yeah, I do all sorts of readings, Nicole. Oh, you married the same man twice. Well, that's interesting. But then so did Liz Taylor, didn't she? And her second time around, I think, went quite well, if I remember rightly. There you go. See, Linda, I was talking about you. Linda's been married for 32 years. Her husband was a blind date. Linda's family. But some people really work at it. So if you've got both people working at it, then that's good. But you can't have a relationship where you're doing all the hard work and someone's not. That's toxicity. So if you keep making room and you keep moving things aside and you keep giving in all the time, thinking you're working towards the relationship and the other person is not, then that makes it very toxic. But if the other person's not prepared to put in the work, that's very often when you just look at it one day and you think, I'm just doing this for nothing here. I'm getting nothing back. And that's when you start to get resentful and angry. And that's time to go then, because you're probably not going to fix it. And like we talked yesterday, there's a lot of people in relationships who do not think there's anything wrong with them. So they're not prepared to go to marriage counselors or speak to somebody about it. So that's a problem too, because sometimes you're trying to do that fixing yourself. And you think if we just had someone to mediate, someone to bounce things off. But if you're married to someone who is a manipulator or has those narcissistic tendencies, you're never going to get them to go to a counselor. So that's tough too. Yeah, I agree. Nicole's had a pretty hard time here. Yeah, I think it takes both people working towards the same goal, Linda. It's really important in a relationship. We don't always have all the answers, and we do rely on our partner to support us. But if we're doing all the work and someone's doing all the taking, it's just a recipe for disaster. And that's what happens a lot of the time. People don't want to take the responsibility. Oh, you've started to go to therapy. Okay, that's really interesting. And you've been married for 32 years. That's a long time to be with someone. It is a long time. It's a lifetime. Yeah, it's really tough. The readings were quite interesting this morning, though. No, not all you guys went for the readings this morning, so you'll have to go back and have a look because I pulled out the shark and the dolphin. Hey, Kavitha. How are you going? Oh, that's really lovely. Thank you. The What's Cracking readings and the bonus readings this week have been all over the place. So the 3 readings this morning smack all the same, all exactly the same energies. Yesterday, I think they were completely different. So I don't ask spirit for a particular theme when I'm doing those readings. If I want to do a reading and I ask for a particular theme, then they will give me that answer. But what I do for the What's Cracking reading is I just draw from the general energies. So whatever's going, yeah. Oh, you had his trouble with his family too. Yeah, see, the trouble is when you have people who are, really difficult, often their families are supportive of their difficultness. I don't know if anybody found that. Sometimes you sort of meet someone and, they are a product of their own family. So I guess we all have our faults there. But sometimes when there's a problem, and you go and speak to a family member about it, the family member tends to back you up, whether the problem is right, whether you're right, whether there's an issue or problem, doesn't matter. The family will always back you up because they know that's just like your friend. You go to your friend, you go, oh, my partner's a real, he's such a pain. He does this, he never does any work. And they go, I know, he's terrible, isn't he? Oh, he's so lazy. And oh, yeah, I know. And I can't get him to do anything. I'm doing all this stuff. And they go, I know, I feel really sad for you. It's really terrible. So you get reinforced with it. So you're thinking you've got this issue and problem and you've got your family backing you up. Well, the same thing happens with them when they go to their family. So you're seeing them a certain way. And when they go to their family, they say to them, I'm doing all this stuff. She doesn't do anything. And they go, I know, isn't it terrible that she doesn't do all that stuff for you? So you end up having this complete breakdown because nobody's really telling the truth there. You should be able, if a family member comes to you and says that that's happening, you should be really impartial and say, yeah, it's really bad, but if you really are having issues and problems with it and you think that you can do something, maybe you need to seek a counselor, or have you spoken to him about it? So, that happens all the time where somebody says, I've got this problem with my partner. And I'll say to them, have you spoken to them about it? Oh, no, I can't speak to them. They don't talk to me. They don't open up. They don't tell me how they feel. And that's really hard too, because how can you have a conversation if the person you're speaking to is trying to avoid conflict by not talking back? So there's no honest conversations that go on. Now, that's the point where you go to a counselor and you say, we can't talk to each other, and you need someone to mediate between the two of you. And that's why marriage counselors are so good, because they take on that position in the middle. Yeah, well, there you go, Maria. We have a lot in common, don't we? Um, Hey, Gillian. You sneak in all the time. I look and I think, where did you come from? I didn't see you before. So yeah, Nicole says she's done all this. It's really tough. Sometimes you just have to give up. Um, oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's the trouble with outlaws, isn't it? I just, it was really hard because the father of my children lived with my son for the last couple of years. He died last year, and he lived with my son for the last couple of years. He was around. So we always had contact because we had the children there. Um, and we had a sort of what I would see as a civil relationship. We could sort of attend family things together. I could sort of talk to him about the weather and a few things, but really never got into deep conversations with him. So he was around for a very long time. Um, his family pretty much all went before him. But I remember putting up with some really tough stuff from his family when he complained about something because they'd all bombard me as well. So it was really hard sometimes. Because you're sticking up for yourself against a lot of people rather than just one. So I had my family doing it, his family doing it, and I was copying the whole lot. I was the little scapegoat in the middle. Just want to go through and see if I've yeah, it is hard, Linda. I agree with you. But you do know you just got to take it and just go with it. That's the best thing you can do. Um, oh, there you go, Jess. Enabling families are so difficult. And if you've got a family that your partner's family who are, only one-eyed, and you've got a family that thinks your partner is just the bee's knees, that is really difficult if you're being bombarded from both sides. We do expect our families to back us up. And even if one of my kids came to me and said, oh, so and so is being like this, I would never turn around and say, yeah, he's awful, isn't he? I would say to them, well, have you spoken to him about it? Have you sat down and talked about it? Maybe it's time to go to counseling. Maybe you could do this, talk to them. And I give them, the best thing I know how for them to work with that. But if I thought one of my children was doing the wrong thing, I would also say to my child, well, you know what? Sometimes you're really difficult too. I don't know how somebody puts up with that stuff that you do. I would be completely honest with them now, because you're not helping by just padding everything out and telling somebody it's somebody else's fault all the time. Because sometimes we have things we need to wear too, and it may not be good to hear. Who wants to hear that you're maybe part of the problem? But you know what? If you're really wanting to fix it, you need to know what your part is in it. And if you can't work that out, or you don't feel that you have a responsibility, so I'm not going to say that sometimes people say, and I hear it, people say it takes two to tango. That I don't agree with. That I don't agree with. I've met people who have been incredibly good partners, who have done everything right and loved their partner to the nth degree, and their partner has gone and cheated on them. I had one friend whose partner was in another relationship for 9 years before she found out, and another one who was in a relationship for nearly 15 years before she found out. And I think, I don't know how they ignored that. I don't know how they got by, but that's not the problem or issue here. If that person needed to be with someone else, they should have told them, I don't want to be with you anymore. I want to have a life with someone else. And both those people were completely shattered by what had happened. And one of them found out that not only did he have a long-term relationship, he also had 12 other people in the picture. And I just think, both of those women, they may have faults. They may have, some of their, I don't know what they're like, at home in their private environment. But for the most part, I saw women who were really dedicated, who really loved their partners and were doing what they thought were all the right things. Some people just can't tell the truth. They think that they can just do that and that's okay. I think it's really sad because I think both of those women deserved so much more. But, there are times when I think, that whole takes two to tango thing, I don't know if that's completely true. And one of them went back and gave her husband another chance, and the other one didn't. She couldn't go back. And it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking when you see someone be with someone for, 20, 30 years and their partner's sort of out playing around, and then it's friends that have to tell them, or they catch someone out. It's just not nice. It's just not nice for them to cope with. I tried telling a friend once. It was the biggest mistake of my life. I had a very good friend who I caught her husband out, and I said to him, I caught him, and I said to him, "You need to go home and tell your wife what you've done and what you're doing." And he was really embarrassed, shrugged his shoulders, and he never told her. Um, and I thought, okay, I'm going to have to find some way to tell her. How am I going to do this? So I tried to approach her about it, and her response was, well, if he's having sex with someone else, at least he's not bothering me. So some people are quite happy just to go along with that. You absolutely cannot change a person, Linda. I agree with you completely. But if a person wants a relationship bad enough, then they may be able to adapt their own behavior to help out if that's what they want in a relationship. So we're all capable of adapting something. So if I'm extremely messy and you're extremely tidy and we live together, there is a very good possibility I could learn to clean up after myself. That is not a hard ask. So some things, yes, we can definitely adapt to. You wouldn't take a boyfriend's side against her no matter what. Well done, Moira. That's total loyalty there. Yeah, we're all learning, Maria. We're all learning. None of us have got it right. I think we'll probably leave this world with lots of lessons that we've still got to learn or we're still learning, and I think that's okay. Oh, that's really hard. You sound like you've got a really hard time there, Nicole. I'm sorry to hear that. It is. It's really hard, isn't it, when you're left with children and you've got someone who's not been loyal to you too. So I'm sorry to hear you're having such a hard time with that. Are you in Australia? Do you go to a counsellor or do you go to see a psychologist? Because it's certainly helpful when you're going through those things, if only just to sort of if only to sort of help you get through those times. Okay, Hayley, I will agree with you 100%. I will agree with you 100%. I think if somebody doesn't want to be with someone, and they are really unhappy in that relationship, life is too short. Life is too short. You need to tell the person so they can go off and have, find someone new as well. Because if you don't want to be with that person, then why would you subject someone to a life with you if you wanted to be with someone else? It makes no sense at all. So, people do it. I can't understand how somebody can have relationships for long periods of time. That really blows me away. But some people can manage it, and they do. And I've heard about it many times that people can maintain two relationships, two families, and whatever else. But I just think if you want to be with someone else, why waste your life, being with someone you don't want to be with? It makes no sense to me at all. But you only got one life. If you don't like it, you can change it. Apart from giving your children back, that's probably the only thing you can't do. They want to have their cake and eat it too. Yep, there are some people who are really constantly trying to reassure themselves that they are worth loving. And some people will just go out and sleep with other people just to confirm to themselves that they are worth loving. So it's not really about the relationship, it's more about their own low self-esteem. And that happens a lot with narcissism, the cheating thing, trying to sort of fill your life with things that on the outside. And sex is it's a good tool of making you feel good for a short amount of time. And some people don't need to have the intimate connection to have a sexual relationship. So unfortunately, yes, some people just cheat for the sake of cheating because it makes them feel good about themselves. It hurts other people though. Oh, yeah, I've heard of people like that too, where someone else can tell that they're different. There's a thing I read not so long ago, which was quite interesting. And it was talking about both men and women and what they do when they're cheating. So if a woman's cheating on a man, she very often doesn't talk about anything to do with that person at all. She doesn't even mention the other person. She keeps it completely secret, and she makes sure she doesn't give anything away. When a man is cheating on his woman, very often he talks about the person. It seems to be a really funny idiosyncrasy, and I don't know why it is. But if you've got a husband that comes home all the time and talks about a girl at work that he gets on really well with, and he thinks she's really great, and he tries to talk about like that all the time, chances are pretty good he's cheating on you. Sorry. I didn't realize that either, but apparently that's how men manage it, by trying to play it down but telling you all about it. No idea. That's no good. If you've got an AVO in place as well, Nicole, that's pretty tough stuff. But it's good to protect yourself, absolutely. So you sound like you've been through the mill. Yeah, so that's sort of, I don't even know how we got onto that subject. It's quite interesting, isn't it? But yeah, I read something probably in one of those silly books I've read here, one of those books that talked about how men cheat and how women cheat and how different they are, which is quite interesting. So yeah, if they talk about a person all the time, or play a person up, talk about the woman they're working with and how fabulous she is and what hard time she's had from her husband and all that sort of thing, pretty good chance they're cheating. Yeah, see, when I was married, I didn't cheat, but I got on very well with a woman at work, and I would talk about her all the time to my wife. It's probably not the best thing to do, Scott. It's not the best thing to do. It sort of makes someone feel insecure anyway, but yeah, they reckon that men do that a lot because they're trying to relieve their own guilt. So you may have had feelings for her. When you say you got on well with her, you might have had feelings and you were feeling guilty about that. I don't know, but it's very possible that that could be the case. But yeah, this was something I read not long ago, and I read a lot of stuff. I do. But yeah, it's good to keep in mind. Nicole, you're not probably feeling love for him. You're probably feeling that attachment when someone's done something like that to you, because we feel rejected. We tend to sort of take that rejection so personally, and it sort of manifests in us as an attachment, or a wanting to be attached to someone, and it's all about the rejection. We think we still love them, but we probably don't really want to love someone who's treated us so badly. I don't really know, but you need to do some healing so that you can understand what you're going through. So possibly having a talk to a counselor is a really, really good thing to do in that position. I would highly recommend it, because often talking to someone about and having your feelings validated and what you've been through, through that validation, is really helpful for you to understand that, what sort of part you were playing and what sort of part they were playing. But love is a reciprocal thing, and it's not conditional. So if someone's treating you so poorly and putting you through all that sort of stuff, and then not seeing their own children, then they've probably got a lot of issues themselves. And whether you feel that you still love him or not, it's probably a really good idea to have a talk to a counselor about it, just to really get your ideas around why you feel the way you do, because it'll help you move on, which is really important. Tough conversations there. Let's have some light stuff. What can we do to have light stuff? I've got nothing around me to talk about. Dreams last night. I don't think I had any dreams last night that were worth talking about. There was something we were talking about yesterday, and I remember walking away and thinking I'd have to have a think about that. And I can't remember what it was now. You do, my darling, you do need to go and speak to someone. That's what I said. You really need to understand. If you're in Australia, you can get up to 12 sessions from a psychologist under a mental health plan. So you just speak to your doctor about having a mental health plan done up for you. If you're in If you're in another place, if you're in another country, just check what your under your health system, what you can get. But I'm sure that if you go and see a domestic violence group or a women's help group or Google them online, very often they have people attached to them that they can help you with as well. But somebody would definitely give you an opportunity to talk about it. And to be honest with you, that's what you need to do more than anything. You need to understand about that. Okay, talk about Jaws. Okay, I'm going to read the cards that we had this morning again. So we bought the shark and the dolphin out, and I was like, this is not the first time we've been given two cards. And so far, the cards have always complemented each other in one way, shape, or form. So I will read them again for people who missed it. I've got 5 minutes. So the shark here, this little toothy guy, he is about directness, exposure, and revealing true nature and desire. It says the shark is only dangerous when we don't acknowledge it. This card indicates that something big needs to be exposed. It's lurking in the depths and creating tension. Shark energy takes over us when we are hesitant to be honest and to be totally ourselves or to say what we really want. It may be tempting to continue pretending nothing is wrong, but when shark energy is at play, we feel its presence encircling us. So something is hidden within you, you need to bring to the surface. And the dolphin, this little cute guy here, is about being innately intelligent and being a healer, light, and blessings. The gifts of the dolphin are beyond what our human minds can grasp. Dolphin personalities are often drawn to the healing arts as they are sensitive to the subtle and enjoy working on the level of spirit. It's easy for dolphin types to underestimate the impact they make in the world. These creatures play such an important role in the wheel of karma that coming into contact with the dolphin type will change the entire course of your day, and that's your life. This card can also indicate a profound blessing is on the way. So I think a lot of you guys are sharks and you've swallowed a dolphin. That's what that's all about. Definitely. So you need to face your fears. That's right, Haley. Because I think underneath all that, it's saying there's a dolphin waiting to get out, but you're walking around in life pretending you're a shark. And then I'm going to bring out this card because I didn't bring one of these out. So we've got the card of To Be Fair. So I think that's what it's trying to say to you is that you're hiding your inner dolphin. To be fair. This is about balance, justice, a need to consider options, mutual benefit, and the law of cause and effect. Life offers experiences that are challenging and experiences that are nourishing, yet over time they strike a balance. You move from being, from stasis to doing, from discovering to loving to letting go to being again. Life is a pendulum swinging all of these states. You will always oscillate back and forth between doing and being. If you are not content with where you are at this moment, remember that all experiences have their place. Accept them without judgment, and you will see how the universe adjusts in perfect balance. You reap what you sow. For every cause, there's an effect. Wondrous things will be revealed now. Oh, both of those, all about revealing something. Really interesting. Okay, so just I'm going to read the prosperity merit. I am going to read the prosperity message on this card. Now is a time for even exchanges. Justice will prevail and you will be treated accordingly. In all your affairs, you will be able to negotiate fair settlements. Mutual gain is the gift to you and your partners and colleagues. This is also a good time to square your finances and take stock of how you've compensated for your work. This card signifies balance, justice, and negotiations. So remember that all things must be fairly recompensed. Keep this as your truth, and so it will be. So that was the card because we never pulled one of those out. So I think it's quite interesting that everything talks about something being revealed. Ooh, sounds really interesting. And nothing about nakedness, Scott. We don't want anything to be revealed in terms of nakedness today. So we've talked about the shark again. Hey, Sylvie, how you going? Yeah, see, we've got to release your dolphins. Somehow or another, you've got to release the dolphin. Somehow or another, that shark, the energy of the shark talks about us holding too much inside, and just, sort of showing this sort of really scary thing on the outside, hiding something beautiful within. So, in my dream the other day, the shark, the sharks weren't really a bother to me in the dream I had. Yeah, it's quite interesting that they came out the other day, wasn't it? But in my dream, there was other creatures that ate the dolphin, that ate the sharks, and they weren't anything I'd ever seen before. They were the most peculiar looking creatures. And I remember somebody saying to me, "We'll be all right as long as they don't come along because they might shake the boat up." I remember that. But they didn't, and I wasn't scared. So, um, yeah, the readings this morning were beautiful, weren't they? And I went for a third one again, thinking I'll get something different, and it was exactly the same. That blows me away. And then I go and watch someone else's reading. I go and watch someone else's reading, thinking, "Oh, I'll go and watch someone else do a reading this morning, and their reading will be exactly the same." And you're like, "How does that happen? How does that happen?" But anyway, all right, I have to go. It's 1 hour. I need to get back to work and ring some more people. Hopefully, have a better, uh, a better time this afternoon. If only I could talk to you guys about it. If only you understood my job, so you could understand why I was so frustrated this morning. And it just sometimes you just have to walk away and you think, no, I'm going to end up throwing my computer if I stay here. You're very welcome. All of you have a beautiful day. I will see you tomorrow. And I love you too, Linda. Take care. Thank you very much for joining me. All take care of yourselves. And remember, they're not lifting the restrictions because the virus isn't there. They're lifting the restrictions because the hospitals now are able to take you in if you get sick. The hospitals are now prepared and have the equipment. It still means the virus is out there. So really take care of yourself. Mwah! And I'll see you tomorrow.